this thing is the Pocket Scion. If somebody has, I have another one here. So you can see both sides. I'm going to keep it like this. This is actually the back of it, but the front of it looks like this. The front of it looks like this. There you go. Very cool. It lights up and does all sorts of fun things. And it can actually be like a little confusing, I find, at first when I give these to people. A lot of people have problems turning them on. So I think like the most important thing is like, how do you turn this thing on? There is a little, you can see here, there's a little on-off. But it's not clear what the on-off is referring to. It kind of looks like you should be pushing this button. That's not the on-off. It's actually a little, the Pocket Scion is just two PCB boards glued together. It's a very simple design. We did it that way because we wanted to make it really affordable, which it is, but it means it's very, sort of minimal in its aesthetic. And so it's just a little switch right here. So that was on already. I'm going to turn it on again, and it's turning on. Because it should glow, and it didn't. Okay, but we still have sound. Good, yeah. And the easiest way, so I'm just going to turn my volume on here. The easiest way to actually get sound out is if I take this sensor out of it here. I'm going to take my USB out here and turn it over. So the easiest way to get signal, there's actually two conductive strips that look like one solid thing, but if you look really carefully, you can see that there's like one strip on one side and another strip on the other side. And when you connect the two strips, your body is actually acting as a resistor in a circuit. And as there's changes in surface area or conductivity, you're going to be triggering this algorithm that creates sound. And so, this is the easiest way to just get going by using your own body. And there are 4 different instruments you can scroll through right away. So that particular one is called, what is this called again? It's called like Secret Garden, I think. And this one is called Fungal Waves. The third instrument is called Treebeard's Koto, a little nod to Lord of the Rings. And then this one here is Noise Patch. Do you guys want to try just touching it and see what happens? Yeah, just touch it. You have to sort of touch it in the middle, yeah. Nice. Yeah. Beauty. And so I think actually one of the coolest things about this that I hadn't even thought about before was just that it's like an instant way of kind of bringing modulation to life. I don't know how technical to be here, but modulation is really nice when you're making music because you can send this information in many different ways, from OSC to MIDI to just even audio coming out of the sensor here to your compositions and do whatever you want with them. So perhaps what I'll do first is just show you what maybe I'll get into the nuts and bolts of like what actually is happening here, because I think that's interesting. So essentially, plants and mushrooms don't make music in the way that we like to think about music. They do make sounds, and there's a lot of evidence that those sounds are informative and sometimes communicative. But in this case, we're changing electrical properties to create sound, which I find like a really fun way of working with the natural world. And if I click on these 2 buttons here, the sensitivity buttons, you hear this sort of a thing happen, and this switches it to raw data mode. So raw data is the actual pulse wave that's created by the little 555 chip, which is right at the top here. So it's a pretty classic way, for the last 20 years or so, people have been using 555 timer chips to create pulse waves from changing electrical resistances of bodies. So what's happening is that there's a little current going through this chip, And there's 2 capacitors, and as each capacitor sort of gets filled with a certain amount of current, you get 1 edge of a pulse. And the less resistance there is in the circuit, the higher the frequency of the pulse. So here is less resistance. It's going to be, I'm going to turn on the volume because it gets a little aggressive. So that's like more of my finger touching the conductive plate, so there's less resistance in the circuit, more electricity is getting through, the frequency goes up. If I just gently touch it, you can actually hear the individual clicks of this pulse wave. A pulse wave is just a sound wave that has like jagged edges, so you can hear these like clicks. And then as I lessen the resistance, and I actually think that, you know, if you add like, you know, like even just as a noise tool, it's pretty sick. Like I actually like that sound, and I think it's cool that that possibility exists. Obviously, there's, you know, a limit to how long we can listen to that sound for. So by pressing, yeah, or maybe not, you know, for most people. Yeah. So I just switched back to, yeah, exactly. I find I have done a few things just for kids, and they are not interested at all in any of the instrument presets. They just want to listen to noise. So I think there is something authentic about just the noise. So if I just switched it back by pressing again like a long hold on the 2 sensitivities, and I'm going to plug this in right now to these sensor cables that come with the device, and now we can actually like plug into things. I have seen people plug into or try to plug into like cats and dogs, but it works a little better if you're like plugging into inanimate objects that aren't wandering around that you're not going to hurt necessarily. So this beautiful chanterelle just showed up here, thank you. So as I plug in, you can see the same thing. As there's little changes in resistance in the mushroom, we're getting sound triggered by the internal engine. And if I, again, want to show you sort of how this algorithm is working, I have like a pulse wave coming out of this, like a raw pulse wave coming out of the Seashell, the Instruo Seashell, which you can see right here. So I'm just going to go out of the pulse output and into the sensor. So when you go, you can send a pulse wave straight into the sensor to see, basically you're bypassing you're sending like a pulse wave straight into the 555 chip. And you can see here, I've got a little tiny trigger right when I plug in, and then it calms down. So there is a pulse wave coming through. If we just listen to this as audio, this is what's happening. So you're going to hear some, that's what I'm sending. But I'm sending audio into this sensor. And aside from the trigger that happens like at the very beginning, even though there's steady stream of information, because there's no frequency change, we're not getting a trigger. But then as soon as I do this, as soon as I increase the frequency, or as soon as I change the frequency, we're triggering the device. So what's happening is the same thing that happens when we modulate the frequency with our own resistance. Like as this pulse wave gets faster and slower, we trigger notes on the Pocket Scion. So that's like the best description. And we're seeing like there is a little bit of like pulse wave modulation on this pulse wave. So we're seeing like little tiny triggers, but as soon as I like jack up the frequency, we trigger the audio. So I hope that takes away some of the like mystery of what's going on. The point when I was working with the guys at Instruo, Jason and Kian, to make this, really what we're trying to do is take away any needless mystery around, you know, plant music. Like it's actually a really cool thing. I kind of feel like nature is crazy and psychedelic enough that we don't have to like make it additionally weird, you know, it's already really weird, and this is a really nice way that I think is really accessible for us to, you know, incorporate nature into our compositions. And so transparency is really what is behind most of the decisions that we make. And Jason is also really active on Discord, and so if there's ever any questions that you have, and you know, I do a lot of question answering as well on all this stuff. So let's talk about MIDI and getting away from just the internal sound engines, because that's just, I think, the beginning of what's possible. So maybe we'll start off by showing you the app, because that's how everything sort of gets changed. So to get into the app, this first version of the Pocket Scion has a micro USB, and you just plug your micro USB into your computer, and as soon as you plug in, you can see that this app activates. And this is where you can really unlock the power of this device. So I can also scroll through, you know, if I just plug into this chanterelle again, I can also scroll through without touching the front panel or the back panel. I can scroll through the different sounds just on the app. And I have a lot of control here. I'll increase my volume a bit. I have a lot of control here over what I want to do. So if I'm in Secret Garden, for example, I can change my scale just by these are the white notes on the bottom, and these are the black notes on the top. So this is a little mini keyboard. So if I only want to be in, like, you know, I only want one note, I just want C. And right now I'm in a, you can see you have control over each of 5 voices. So every time there's a jump in activity in the organism, you get a note triggered. If there's another jump before this first note is finished, then it triggers a second voice. And then if there's more, if it's really active, it will trigger a third, and then a fourth, and a fifth. So you have this sort of polyphonic cloud that comes out, which is a factor of how much activity there is in the actual organism. And so you can modulate each of these voices in a number of different ways to make things more interesting. So if I, for example, take my octave range down to 1 for all voices, and I have control over how many voices are activated on the front panel here. So if I press Shift and I go down, this is just 1 voice. And you can see that as I go up to 2 voices, things get a bit more busy. And then if I go up to 3 voices, things get more busy, and then all the way up to 5. And now if I start allowing more than 1 octave range, like up on the 5th voice, if I allow there to be 5 octaves of information. It's a little bit funny because I only have C chosen here, so you're just hearing 1 note. But let's say I put, you know, let's say I put in like a 5th. And then increase this to 5, voice 4 to 5 octaves as well. And then let's say we put in, you know, a 3rd. And then add this to 5. And add this to 5. You can see how much that sort of changes the character of what's happening on the onboard machine. And you also have the option to octave offset everything. So right now everything is offset to -2 to sort of keep things a little bit in the bassier range. So I'm going to take voice 1 and put it back down to an octave range of 2 just to keep some sort of bass in there. And I'll take this octave offset and put it to 0 for everything. And you can hear how that just increases where we are as a whole, like the center, the tonal center of what's happening. So you can get really, you know, really in detail into this. I'm just going to go back to where we were with this. I like this -2 because it sort of keeps it a little bit more manageable. And what I'm going to do now is open up Ableton Live, and I'm going to send these 5 channels directly into an Ableton set. So I made up a little like Pocket Scion like template set, and it's so interesting because it works like right out of the box. I didn't have to do any adjustments on Ableton at all. Oh yeah, I forgot to plug in my computer, so I'm gonna turn this down, and I'm just gonna pump up the volume on the computer. So right now, I'm using MIDI channels here. I'm adjusting my MIDI channels in the app. So I'm using MIDI channel 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so each of those voices, for example here, channel 1 is making this sound, is getting channeled to this device. Channel 2 is getting channeled to this device. Channel 3, so I've just got a bunch of different instruments. That's sort of like a noise source. This is like some beeping, and they're all coming out on different channels. So right now, whatever is happening in this chanterelle is just generating a kind of like ongoing, you know, ambient composition that will never really repeat itself. Which is quite sweet. And I'm going to unplug from here. You've been very generous, Ableton. Thank you very much. Yeah, why don't we do like 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 here. I'm going to send this out to some different channels to get into the OPXY, which is this little device here. So what's happening here is that I have channel 3 being routed into one of the channels on the OPXY, channel 4 being routed into another, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm using multiple channels of MIDI again, just going, and again with the OPXY, so this little keyboard here from Teenage Engineering, I didn't have to do any mucking around in the menu. I just like literally plug the USB in, and it's already natively taking all of this MIDI information in. So it's a really nice way of jamming, and then you can also like incorporate the sounds from the actual Pocket Scion. So now I'm mixing those in together. And I think I can also send MIDI. I think I'm also sending MIDI to the Seashell. So let's see if I can bring that in a bit. Oh, my MIDI's not plugged in. So I'm plugging the MIDI in through the MIDI port. The saxophone is in the car, so as we go look for the saxophone, I'm just going to plug the Seashell directly into the MIDI port. So you can hear the Seashell doing its like weird seashell thing. while we have all of this going, I'm going to open up Touch Designer and show you how we can use the information that we're generating right here live from the Chanterelle and send it to like a visuals program. Because I think like, if I just unplug for a moment. Yeah. If I unplug for a moment, I think what's really interesting is that this is not just limited to music. Like this is also for, yeah, right? There's more. It's also great for visuals, and it's also great for like little science projects. I'm going to try to get JupyterLab up and running in a second here too, and show you how you can live plot the data that's coming out. Because one of the other things that was really important to me in making this is that you can send out like the OSC data, which is open sound control data. So it's like the calculations that we're using in the algorithm to generate this activity. You can just output the means and the standard deviations that are producing this music and then use them in whatever way you want. So while Zekarias is getting the instrument ready, why don't we plug into Touch Designer here. So you'll notice we have this kind of patch that's happening. And when I plug, again, I'm just going straight from the USB into my computer again. And as I plug into, let's go into the marigold. Actually, maybe go into a leaf. And so you can see how there's like an instant kind of reactivity if I unplug again. And then if I touch again on the leaf, or plug into the leaf again. And this is a patch that's actually using both the MIDI and the OSC data. You can download this patch for free on PocketScion.com. And I'm using a free version of Touch Designer right now. So this is like super basic, but what you can do with this, there's some examples already on the internet of just like crazy designs that people have been making and using Scion to activate things live. So I think it's like kind of like an opening to doing, art installations as well. It's like a really nice way of bringing biology and, modulation into your visualization.
So it doesn't affect, like you can send via USB and MIDI simultaneously. They don't affect each other in any way.
No, yeah, you could see that.
You could do one visual
totally.
thing while also sending the MIDI to and take the sound direct there.
Yeah. I mean, actually, it's interesting. I was saying to Jason before this that I didn't realize the potential of that until I kind of started doing these demos actually, and I was like, oh, I can just plug into everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Different data.
Say it again.
The data coming over the USB MIDI is different than the
No.
MIDI out. Oh, it's the same.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and then you out of the USB you're also getting OSC data, which will be different. You can use for something different. Yeah.
And then what about the sounds built into the unit itself? Are those are you able to change those via your app, or are they just kind of set forever?
Yeah, they're not set forever. We're working on other sound packs, but I think the encouragement is really like, have fun and plug it into other stuff. Yeah, because there's the way that it was designed was to be very affordable, very compact, and the DSP is like tiny, so there's not a lot of memory. The way that we had to format the instruments, so I designed all of the sounds on the Pocket Scion, and it took like hours and hours and hours to just do one of the instruments because it's so finicky and you can't. Every little sample that we use to build these libraries has to be like a very specific length and can't be any longer or shorter. And so it's not the kind of thing that people would be able to, like, I took forever to do it, and so it's not the kind of thing, like, it would be a customer support nightmare to actually open that up.
It's using samples instead of.
It's sort of, it's samples mixed with synthesis. Yeah, it's like all of the ratcheting and reversing and stuff that's happening. Yeah, yeah, but there's no analog synthesis happening on board. Yeah. It's kind of like a bit of a, it's not granular synthesis, but it's an approach like granular synthesis.
There, I imagine this is a hardware limitation, but is there any plan to implement wireless OSC?
Yeah, I mean, we have been talking about Bluetooth, and we have been talking about like a onboard rechargeable like lithium-ion battery, so that you don't need AAAs. And we have been talking about, you know, even like would a slightly larger version have like a speaker in it or something, you know? So there's a list of things we're thinking about, but at the moment we're so, you know, the demand is far outstripped what exists in the world. So the first thing is like let's yeah, fill some pockets, and we have and like I say, the Discord is very active. So if you are messing around with it and you have a feature that you really want, then I would just say, you know, Jason is literally on the Discord 24 hours a day. So yeah, it's amazing. It's like I've never seen customer support like that.
Is there external in for power, or is it only battery?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can power it like via USB. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can.
Oh, but it would take the USB.
Yeah, it would take your USB, but if you're using it with a computer,
Yeah.
or even if you have it, like when I'm plugged into my OPXY, you can still power it like that. So whatever device you're using, yeah. Jupyter Lab setup. So this is just a free software, and it's for live plotting. And I think maybe this is time for Coral Tooth. So as I plug in, run all cells. Okay, so let's. So this is, we're actually looking at the OSC data here. And you can see that if you do some, you know, as soon as you stop, you get sort of a change, a radical change in resistance, obviously. But we're back calculating what's happening on the device to mega ohms. And that big spike that I just created, oh, you know why? I haven't updated the firmware. We have some new firmware on here which takes care of the spiking that happens as soon as you unplug or plug in, because it's an artifact of the way that the calculation is being made. Like there's a radical change in resistance as soon as you plug into something, and so you get this spike. But the firmware the beta version is not available yet, but it will be soon. Yeah, we're just ironing out some kinks. But it also has a little filter to get rid of like 50 and 60 hertz hum, because that can also, like in certain situations, that can also create challenges.
It's all facilitated through the app then?
The firmware?
Yeah.
No, the firmware, you'll just be able to, it's kind of like firmware for any of the TE stuff. You just sort of plug in your device and then drop like the new firmware right into the drive. You don't need the app to, I mean, I don't think it's going to be app-based. So far, all the firmware has just been like drop it onto the device kind of a thing. Yeah, yeah. Stay tuned for that. That's like, I think that's right around the corner. But I think this shows you again like another use, because I think what I'm most interested in this for is like you could just plug into your, you know, the ficus in your house and just plot it for a couple of weeks and see what happens, you know? Yeah. I mean, there are companies that actually do that for sure. Yeah. And I've been having a lot of fun just getting granular with like plants and mushrooms and looking at like what's changing resistance and how much variability we're seeing like over time. all of this does touch on a whole world of scientific research. My background is you know, I did an undergrad in biology and a master's in oceanography. And so I am no longer a working biologist, but I have a lot of friends in that world. And you know, I can say that like the very forefront of plant and fungal biology is concerned with what's happening with electricity and what it means. And so it's fun to sort of have this project be all of my friends at the SPUN Lab, the Society for the Protection of Underground Networks in Amsterdam, bought the Scion as soon as it came out. And we sent 3 to Merlin Sheldrake because he wants to do a bunch of tests with it. And so there is this like back and forth and this idea that that there is a possibility for citizen science, you know, in a way that iNaturalist exists, and you can like do your projects, but also that data becomes available for meta-analyses and, you know, scientific research later. So that, yeah, totally, yeah. I'm going to plug this back into the OPXY, and maybe we'll just play ourselves out with a bit of music here. Thanks so much for coming today, y'all.
Yeah, thank you for showing us how this works.
That was Zekarias, Musele, Thompson on saxophone, all the way from Oakland. And big thanks to Jason and the team here at Control Voltage for hosting this birthday party. Yeah.